not to build on someone else's tired ideas, but to see the future.
What? And the future is monsters? Look at this.
Hey, welcome back to ScreenCrush. I'm Ryan Airy, and this is all of the Easter eggs, references, and little things you might have missed in episode 7 of Monarch, Legacy of Monsters. So, this was our favorite episode of the series so far. We're switching our focus from how Monarch began to how it's going to move forward, and I am so excited. So, let's break this baby down. We open on Tim crawling out of the sand, and it's actually funny because he emerges exactly the same way Godzilla emerged last episode.
We're kind of the same.
We find out that Tim and the trio are in Tindouf, Algeria, so they are smack dab in the middle of the desert. Kate's trying to figure out what their dad was doing, but Kentaro doesn't care.
Who gives a shit about him?
Their attitudes have completely switched since the first few episodes. Originally, Kate wasn't even sure she wanted to find him, while Kentaro was defensive of their dad.
Why did it change all of a sudden?
Because this is the first time that Kentaro has been abandoned by their father. Remember, Hiroshi left Kate at a FEMA camp only 5 days after the Godzilla attack. He didn't even say bye to her mom. Kentaro had a rosier outlook on their dad, but now he understands that he will leave him just like he left his sister. Kate, on the other hand, is just thrilled to see their father is alive. Then we cut to the opening credits. Now look, we did a shot-by-shot breakdown in our first video, but I'll point out some of the new things that we noticed. This giant blue hole is the same one from episode 4 and the hole that Shaw blows up at the end of the episode. And this screen that says warning, massive organism approaching, is the alert that Monarch sends out to everyone in Seattle. Also, very quickly everybody, I want to apologize because last week we had a problem with our upload. It was a mistake we didn't catch, so we had to re-upload our video, and like the whole thing came out a little bit later. We're really sorry about that, and we're really happy to be here talking to you about this episode right now.
It's our bad, guys.
Kate realizes that May's kidnapped, and I gotta say, for a very big, scary organization, AET is really bad at kidnapping people. To leave her jacket was one thing, but her entire passport?
The level of incompetence in this office is staggering!
We flash back to Seattle 3 years earlier. May says,
Writing code is like being an artist.
now it's a small detail, but I love it because it explains why she was instantly drawn to Kentaro. So we find out that in 2012, May was hired to AET as a coder, and at the end of the episode, AET rebrands to Apex. Now in case you don't remember, here's a quick rundown of Apex. We first saw Apex in Godzilla vs. Kong. The CEO is Walter Simmons, and his entire goal is that
Humanity will once again be the apex species.
Hence the name Apex. He gets an energy sample from Middle-earth and uses it to power Mechagodzilla. Mechagodzilla goes rogue, Walter's killed by his own creation, and Godzilla and Kong team up to take it down.
And now they're getting married.
Yeah, and now that— wait, what?
Yeah, the new film is called Godzilla x Kong. That's how they do couples in fanfic.
I seriously doubt that was the intention, but you know what? Wouldn't be that wild. Back to Monarch. We switch to Algeria 2015, and the Randa kids are acting like complete siblings now.
This isn't your classroom, Miss Randa.
Well, I'm still the older sibling, so deal with it.
Also, I was really surprised that Kate's the older child. Hiroshi just seems so neglectful of her that I assume she was younger, or the
Backup family.
Tim wanders in and tells them about their family's history in Monarch. He says,
and they were humble enough to accept our tiny place in it.
which echoes this line from King of the Monsters.
So you'd want to make Godzilla our pet?
No. We would be his.
They've mentioned Dr. Serizawa a couple times, and he's been a looming presence in the show.
If you really believe they were so important, why not bring it to Dr. Serizawa?
So I'm wondering if he might make a cameo. That would be really cool, especially because the character died saving Godzilla in King of the Monsters. When Kentaro pulls Kate away to discuss Monarch, we see this Godzilla warning sign in the background. Compared to all the other airports we've seen, this one is tiny, which is ironic because Godzilla was right there.
He's right behind me, isn't he?
Kentaro says,
They're going to want to find Dad. I don't want to find Dad.
which mirrors what Kate said in episode 3.
I don't know what I'm more afraid of. That we don't find Dad, or we do.
We switch back to Tim, who's on the phone with Director Verdugo. This smaller map on the computer looks like it's monitoring part of Indonesia. Last episode, Tim said,
And what would that be? Vietnam, Cambodia?
but he drew the map freehand. My guess is that he was a bit off and it was actually just Indonesia. And this thermal radar actually also extends over part of the Philippines, which is where Bill, Shaw, and Keiko found the Titan at the end of episode 2. When Tim tells her about the Godzilla appearance, he says,
Kind of hard to miss. Majestic, terrifying.
which is a callback to Dr. Suzuki in last week's episode.
They are terrifying.
Good.
Also, the Columbo theme is really sticking with Tim in this episode. Last week, Dr. Verdugo called Tim Columbo as a burn because Columbo is a bumbling detective from a 1970s TV show. But Tim didn't mind because
He was always right too.
just like Tim is here.
Had you not treated these kids like criminals, like I said, then they might have led us to Godzilla instead of running to Shaw.
We cut back to Alaska, and now we're at Outpost 88. This is in Fairbanks, so I bet this is where Monarch was driving Shaw in episode 5. Inside, Barnes is monitoring the isotopic signature and says,
"It's the same isotopic signature as G-Date, but the transmission rate is really funky."
it's a different transmission rate because it's a different Titan. It could just be this one that we saw earlier, but I still feel like there might be an even bigger one down below. Shaw and Duvall go into the base with a team and take over, and then we hear this really militaristic side of Shaw come out.
Now, you can go on as if the world hasn't changed, pretending that humanity didn't just wake up and suddenly find itself on the endangered species list.
Now look, I gotta be honest, I'm not totally sure what Shaw's up to here. Historically, the good guys are people who thought Titans and humans could coexist. That doesn't sound like coexisting to me. He did say he was trying to save Godzilla last episode, though maybe he's trying to take out all the other Titans. We cut back to Algeria with Kate, Kentaro, and Tim, where we finally learn May's real name.
Cora.
Now Cora means daughter and was often used as an alternative to Persephone in Greek myth. Now Persephone was forced to spend half the year in the underworld and then would emerge in spring. May's also forced to hide away for part of her life and even chose the name May, a month often associated with spring, as her alias. We flash back to 2013 AET, where May is less than satisfied with her new job.
Why did you hire me?
As she follows Brenda down the halls, we see a poster that reads, "Innovation is the reward for persistent experimentation," which sounds nice on first glance, but is so menacing by the end of the episode. May says,
I didn't expect my code to disappear down some rabbit hole at the cybernetic neurointerface unit.
and I'll explain what that is in just a bit.
The suspense.
We cut back to Monarch HQ in 2015, and I didn't notice this before, but this is actually the exact same office as the original Monarch HQ that we saw in 1955. You can tell because of all the maps and drawings on the chalkboards behind them. When Director Verdugo is talking to Barnes, we see this map to the left. That is a map of Turkey, and if you look really close, there might even be a few outposts there. We go to Tacoma, Washington, where Kate, Kentaro, and Tim find Cora's childhood home. Kentaro says,
She didn't. Someone named Cora did.
Now he says it to be snarky, but it's kind of true. The Cora we see in flashbacks is really different from the May that we've known throughout the show. She still doesn't take any shit, but she smiles a lot more and is a lot less closed off. Everything that happened with AET hardened May, so she isn't the same person anymore. They still know her, but it's this new version of her, the version her family doesn't know. As always, we see a ton of family photos in the house. Now I love how the show goes through such great lengths to show these because it provides such a window into these characters' lives. With May, we see that trophy that Brenda mentioned.
Everybody doesn't get a trophy here.
And finally, we meet Lyra. Now, I'm gonna be honest, she is much younger than we pictured.
You're so tiny!
And I think that was a great choice. A lot of adult siblings live apart, but to see a teenager lose her sister because of an evil megacore is particularly painful. They claim they're online friends.
We're all in an online manga group.
And something tells me that Tim is speaking from experience.
You need friends.
I have friends.
Not internet friends.
Tim says May loves Akira Toriyama, who is most famous for his manga series Dragon Ball. However, he also created Dr. Slump, which parodied Godzilla. They follow Lyra, who proves to be just as clever as her sister.
Who the hell are you? And don't give me that manga bullshit.
And Kentaro immediately says,
She likes old tech, but thinks people who collect vinyl are hopeless posers. You know, she thinks most people are stupid, but it didn't stop her from helping me when I needed her.
remember a few episodes ago when May said this?
No, he doesn't. No shit.
Kentaro does know May. They both do. Just because she's had to hide things from them doesn't mean that their connection with her isn't real.
This is a secret, Kate, not a lie.
We flash back to 2013. May is at her family home preparing to flee. On her bedroom walls, we see a series of posters from indie bands like Pick a Piper, Tough Age, and Immaculate Machine. That, paired with the lava lamp, makes me think that she never stopped living with her parents. So when her mom said this,
well, she had her own place. But you know, she travels so much now, she doesn't really need it.
It was just a lie May told her to escape. And then she could claim that she still came back to Seattle, but she never had to see them.
Sneaky.
And then we finally get the answer to all those passport questions.
I need to take your passport. You can report it stolen next week, okay?
Aw man, I wanted her to be a master forger.
Me too, buddy, but this is way more wholesome. We flash back to AET, where May investigates the cybernetics unit. Now, if you look closely, the wallpaper on the computer is actually a Monarch logo, meaning that this was a joint venture. We then see these poor monkeys being tortured with some kind of headgear, and Brenda says in a voiceover,
"What you saw down there was the future being created."
So this is an early prototype of the neural network that Apex used to control Mechagodzilla. It attached to the main user and let him control the giant metal body. However, when they infused it with a sample of the power source in Hollow Earth, it overloaded and Mechagodzilla went on a rampage. Remember, this is a joint project between Monarch and AET, so this has huge ramifications for the world. Perhaps unknowingly, Monarch helped create the monster.
We
Mechagodzilla also goaded Godzilla into an attack on Florida. Shaw seems off the rails this episode, but maybe he's right because this is so shady. We cut to Brenda and May in 2015 and finally find out what May did.
You wiped out years of research.
Now this is a huge character shift for May. This entire time she's been a suspicious character with tons of secrets and unclear motives. She's lied at every turn and more than once she has looked like the bad guy. But the truth is that she's only shady because she risked everything to stop unjust experimentation. She could have just looked the other way, but instead she did the right thing at great personal cost. Go May. May says,
"Oh, whatever. I'm sure Walter has it in his couch cushions."
Now she's referring to Walter Simmons, the CEO of Apex that we met in Godzilla vs. Kong. May asks why they didn't call the police and Brenda says,
"We prefer to handle these things internally."
So there's two reasons for this. One, they couldn't call the police because I'm pretty sure there was illegal experimentation going on, and two, they're already secretly working with a giant government organization, Monarch. They have resources far beyond the normal police. Also, side note, but this actually shows one of the bureaucratic pitfalls of Monarch. Remember a few episodes ago when Director Verdugo, Duvall, and Tim couldn't figure out what May was running from? They should know this! She deleted years of their research and they have no idea who she is. Director Verdugo is not at the very top, but I do think that that's why she didn't know. I think Monarch has just gotten so big and so far away from its original mission that it's hard for anyone to keep track of. Tim sets off the Muto alert system, which is the message we see during the opening credits. Also, as everyone runs away, Tim says,
Japan has a similar system, but we haven't actually gone public yet.
Now this is a nod to the original Japanese Godzilla film, but I also think it's because Japan and the west coast of America both border the Pacific Ocean. When Brenda gets the alert, she says,
"If this were real, we would have had advance warning."
That's honestly the shadiest thing about Monarch so far. I mean, think about it. This isn't an advance notice about a news report. This is a warning about a giant radioactive monster. Everyone should get that warning at the exact same time. Brenda offers to free her from legal repercussions if she works as her spy.
You walk out of here, clean slate. You report back to me everything you learn about these titans.
So while AET and Monarch are working together, they aren't sharing everything. They're still keeping secrets. So my guess is that Monarch doesn't know that AET plans to build Mechagodzilla. Now that doesn't clear them from all the blame. They still clearly helped fund the project and probably knew about the animal experimentation, but I don't think they were directly involved with Mechagodzilla's creation. Kim, Kentaro, and Kate show up to get May, and while it's nice of her to explain her actions, it's kind of funny considering that they've already met her family. They had to be sitting there like, "Now I know! But in all seriousness, this is pretty noble of her. It wouldn't have been easy for her to lie to get her life and family back. Like Brenda said, she already has been.
Just keep doing what you've been doing.
But instead of selling them out again, she chooses to do the right thing. So, Kate and Kentaro get kidnapped. Again.
First time?
Yeah, you?
No, not my first time.
This time, though, it's by Verdugo herself. Verdugo doesn't care about May and is more concerned with Shaw.
Because it's possible we're all about to be buried by whatever Shaw has planned.
Now that wording is really interesting. Now at the end of the episode, Shaw blows up the hole in the Alaskan Rift, literally burying the Titan they found there. We also know this isn't the first time he's tried to escape.
You went decades between escape attempts.
And he said multiple times that Monarch knows everything.
Why not share what you know with Monarch? Surely they could help.
They've known everything for years.
I think Director Verdugo knows what Shaw is planning to do. She might not know how or exactly where, but she knows that it involves bombs and could destabilize the Titan ecosystem. After Kate makes a very attractive offer, Director Verdugo makes a call to Brenda, and suddenly May is free to go home.
You help us get May back, and we'll help you fight Shaw.
And like I said earlier, Monarch and AET are working together, but they are still keeping secrets. This signals that Monarch has more power in their agreement. We cut to Tim and Verdugo in the car together where he suggests,
you should do this, the PR thing. We have to bring Monarch out of the shadows.
Now way back in our episode 1 and 2 coverage, we talked about how this show could bridge the Monarch gaps between Godzilla and King of the Monsters. In Godzilla, Monarch is a completely clandestine organization, just like we've seen throughout this show. But King of the Monsters opens with Monarch on a full public trial about whether or not they should be part of the military. It's always been something that bothered me because it was such a drastic change that they just never addressed. So I'm glad they're using this show to fill in the gaps and explain how we got from point A to point B. We cut to Brenda watching Director Verdugo's announcement on TV. Now my guess says that they got advance warning about this too. And then Brenda says,
I think if she sticks to our agreement, It could be very fruitful.
Now, I still think Monarch holds more power in this situation, but they still negotiated for May. My guess is that Monarch had to give them more funding for their neural network project, or maybe even had to give them access to the Muto bodies. Remember, they finally cracked the code for Mechagodzilla when they got one of King Ghidorah's heads. King Ghidorah's necks were so long that the heads communicated telepathically. The Apex retrofitted the head to let the main user wirelessly connect to Mechagodzilla. They also figured out how to power Mechagodzilla when they got a power sample from Hollow Earth. And remember earlier when Brenda said,
Imagine what we can learn from a nervous system that allows something as big as Godzilla to walk.
The point is, they could learn a lot from the bodies of the Mutos, and I'm sure that Monarch has the bodies somewhere, or I guess, the body parts. And then we reveal AET's new design with its new name, Apex. So this is their official turn from a tech company into a monster business company. We cut to the Alaska Rift where Shaw set up a whole military operation with a lot of explosives.
Wait, I just thought bombs make the Titans bigger.
No, radiation makes them bigger. When Godzilla was hit by that nuke, it wasn't the explosion itself that made him grow, but it was the radiation that it gave off.
Or why didn't they just regular bomb the Mutos in San Francisco?
Well, one, there were a lot of civilians, and secondly, those things were huge. They weren't affected by any artillery. The Alaskan Titan is a lot smaller. Also, whatever they hit that Titan with was not a regular bomb. It was a sci-fi vortex bomb. They start bombing the Titan, and when he jumps up, their computers glitch as a reminder that all Titans mess with electronics. However, they still manage to bury him, and we end on this shot of Shaw triumphantly screaming.
I thought he wanted to save the Titans, though.
He wants to save Godzilla, and that doesn't necessarily mean he wants to save all the Titans. I think his relationship with Titans is clouded by his relationship with Keiko. Remember, he watched her die because of a Titan attack. Now that might have made him hate most Titans, but Godzilla would be different because Keiko was so in awe of Godzilla. She was so happy when she realized that he was alive in the last episode, so it could be that Godzilla is the only Titan that Shaw wants to protect. Also, Monarch looks really sketchy this episode. There could be a whole other layer here that we are not seeing. So guys, that's everything we caught. What do you think? Do you think that Shaw's right? Do you think Monarch knows about Mechagodzilla? Big shout out to the writer of this video, Ms. Brianna McLarty. You can find her social links below, so let us know your thoughts on my Twitter, down in our comments, and if it's your first time here, please subscribe and smash that bell for alerts. For ScreenCrush, I'm Ryan Airy.